like I said earlier, like my family isn't too religious, which is a lot where rituals happen. So in the off chance that we did do something, it was always up to us whether we wanted to go for it. And like for example, when we celebrate Vishu or Onam, which is a festival from Kerala, I was told if I wanted to come, it starts at 4 a.m. So I was told if I wanted to wake up, if I wanted to join, I could. So I was given the choice of participating.
हाँ तक मैं अपनी बात करूँ, मैं जिस तरह से बड़ी हुई हूँ, राजस्थान से हूँ मैं, लेकिन राजस्थान में होते हुए भी मेरे परिवार में मुझे कभी भी ये नहीं कहा गया कि ये त्यौहार है तो तुम्हें ये करना ही पड़ेगा, या ये हमारे ये परंपरा चल रही है या ये रस्म चल रही है तो तुम्हें वहाँ होना ही पड़ेगा, ऐसा मुझे कभी नहीं कहा गया. सो वंस आई हैव आस्क्ड माय फादर कि आप मुझे कभी नहीं कहते लेकिन फिर भी मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मुझे इसमें शामिल होना चाहिए, तो ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है. तो पापा ने मुझे कहा कि तुम्हें जब तक दिल से तुम नहीं उसको एक्सेप्ट करती कि हाँ ये इसे करने की मेरी इच्छा है, तब तक मैं तुम्हें कभी नहीं कहूँगा कि ये करो. कि और ये जो मेरी अपब्रिंगिंग हुई और ये जो मुझे फ्रीडम मिली, इस फ्रीडम ने जब मैं हॉस्टल में गई तो मुझे इस फ्रीडम ने अलाउ किया कि मैं हर एक कल्चर को देखूं, हर एक रिचुअल फेस्टिवल को देखूं, जानूं, उसके पीछे क्या साइंटिफिक रीजन है उनको समझूं, एंड देन आई गो अहेड इफ आई वांट टू जॉइन इट. तो मुझे हमेशा वो आज़ादी, भले राजस्थानी कल्चर हमारा है और राजस्थानी कल्चर आपको पता है कि वो कुछ परंपराओं में कुछ उसमें बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट होते हैं, लेकिन मुझे कभी ऐसा माहौल नहीं मिला कि हाँ ये इस पाबंदी में रहना ही है या इस स्ट्रिक्टनेस में रहना ही है, लेकिन माहौल ऐसा क्रिएट कर देते थे कि जिससे अपने आप ही हम छोटे बच्चे होने के बावजूद भी हम चले जाते थे, और आज वो शुरू है.
I think someone from this generation, I can totally agree with what you've said, that we do find like reasons or justifications to why things are happening the way they are. But I feel like it's how you adapt to it, it's how you like look at things and how your perspectives are formed that makes these rituals so beautiful or so enjoyable for someone and not so enjoyable for another person. For like a simple experience, something that happened with me I'm sharing is, my grandmom used to say that, you know, you should give water to the sun every morning before you leave for school and all. And I would just like, I would listen to her, but I was like, what's the point of doing this? Like, I'm just giving water to the sun, it makes like no sense to me. But one day I was just like, okay, let's sit and actually understand what the logic behind this is. So my mom very beautifully, she just explained, like, in our culture, if someone comes to our house, we offer them water, we offer them, you know, like food or anything, but the first thing we offer is water. And the sun is something, it's of the similar nature, where it goes around, like, it's coming in the morning, it's the first rise of the sun, and the first rays come into your house. It's kind of like a guest, you can say. Because the light is a kind of guest, because you don't get it every time, do you? And you're just offering that guest water. And that just made so much sense to me, because it was something that is part of my culture in another sense as well, where actually when guests do come, we offer them water. And also when I just understood this logic, it just made so much sense to me, and I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful thought behind it. And I feel like every ritual, whether it's of our Indian culture or if it's some other culture altogether, I feel like what really matters is the thought behind it. And once we are able to understand that thought, like the true sense of the ritual, it'll all make sense to us, and we would not have to be given the choice, because we would want to do it willingly if we are really into it and really understanding what it really means.
I think I completely agree. The question was whether I've been forced, or rather whether I've been given the choice to go to certain festivals or not. I wouldn't say I was given the choice, but nor was I forced. It was just there. It was just an expectation that, you know what, we have Ganesh Chaturthi, we have to go for the puja. We have Mahavir Jayanti or XYZ festival, we have to go and do a particular ritual. and it was just an expectation. But what was missing was the rationale behind it, the reasoning behind it. I would like to share one experience. So when I follow a religion where we go to temples and we ring bells, and I never really understood the concept of ringing bells. And at one point in time, I asked my granddad that why do we ring bells? Why is it necessary? The reasoning he gave me is that there are different sounds, there are different frequencies, there are different amplitudes, which make your mind work in a particular way, which give you a certain type of meditation, and they relax you. And the point at which when I got this reasoning, when I understood that why do we go there, I started going to the temples frequently. So I would say that this is the reasoning behind what we do and why we do it is something which is missing. And sometimes when we talk about modernization, when we talk about globalization, although we do kind of make things much more easy for us, as we use electric lights instead of diyas, we don't go to temples very frequently, this online darshan and all of that. These ideas are there, but then it does not solve the purpose, it just defeats the purpose. There's a reason why you go, and there's a reason why you do things, which is not being satiated. And when this does not happen, there's no point of doing it at all.
I feel like the same thing, if to our generation, if it was told to us as sound therapy or something like that, we would make much more sense of it. We would be like, oh my god, yeah, we should definitely try this.
Yeah.
But because it's done at a temple, and because it's something that is so ancient, so something that our parents have told us that we have to do, so we do it, and that's why we just put it completely into denial. We just shove it away with like, we don't want to listen because we don't understand the logic behind it, which is not like our parents' mistake or anything, but I feel like it's just something that's missing. And if that is incorporated, if that is told to us, then I feel like like I said, we won't need to have the choice. We will want to do it, because everything that all these rituals, they're not just made up of just because you have to put the flower, you have to put the flower. It's not. It makes so much sense once we understand what's behind it.
A lot of different people would have different origin stories of how that came into place, whether that's air purification or anything else, right? Even though the reasons are different, they all overall come to the same practice. And I think it's important that we follow those practices because they're part of our culture.
There are a plethora of nuances when it comes to how knowledge is transferred and translated from generations to generations, and that story and that reasoning needs to be adapted to the generation which it's being translated to. When we were talking about the Gurukul era, there was a particular way in which, or a particular environment which was present over there, and the knowledge was transferred with that particular nuance and that particular way of living. When we come to this generation, we are all very fascinated by the concept of global warming and whatnot. So this does need to, the story does need to be adapted according to the way, the generation in which we live. And now we talk about pollution when it comes to Diwali and etc, etc. So the basic concept is that we are celebrating a particular sentiment when we celebrate a festival. We are celebrating a particular joy and a particular a particular feeling, and that is what is important. It's not the story is just an abstraction which is put to the generation so that they understand the importance of that festival. And I would say that the reason why this generation does not take so much fascination in festivals is that because that story was not compelling enough. And when the story becomes compelling, you see a generation which is filled with filled with enthusiasm that follow that particular festival. And this is a particular a particular way of living in a particular manier in which we especially live in, and that is why this story is very important. And without the story, there is no final product. There is no learning. So to translate and transgress that learning, we need that story, and that needs to be adapted according to the particular generation.
If you agree with the following statement, come to the middle. I have heard of cultural traditions in my family that I have not seen or practiced.
Of course, I've heard of a couple of things, and one of them is doing parda, right? So, or ghungat, right? You may have probably seen in movies or somewhere else, right? But what I've heard, yes, there was a time when the women at home and otherwise used to cover their face, right? To an extent that you would not probably be able to recognize who the person is, right? This is what I've heard, but all my growing years, or yeah, since I have started observing things, I haven't really noticed the same in my family, right? I even didn't get an opportunity to probably go to a place or meet such people, and I'm just talking about family, right? So this is one ritual that I have heard of, but never got to see and experience in the family.
Can I add something to that? Like you talked about Ghungar and Banda, I just want to like put in a very logical reasoning as to why people used to do that when they used to. So when you're sitting in some religious function, or you're sitting in, suppose, a katha or a discourse, women are generally supposed to cover their entire head and sit. And I didn't understand why people used to do that, and I'm not seeing many people do it these days. Even if you attend a katha or you attend a discourse, people really don't do it. But the reason as to why people used to do that before was, we've learned about chakras in our body and how there are different chakras. There's a chakra here, there's a chakra. All these are aligned, yeah. All these chakras, when you're sitting in an environment where everybody is focused on one person, all these chakras are aligned, and for you to consume all the knowledge, for you to consume what the person is saying, what the preacher is preaching, you need to, that covering was just a way of making sure all the chakras are aligned and all what you're consuming doesn't go out of you, go out of your body, go out of your mind. So some of these practices are not really done anymore, but because if we've given a reason as to why these things are done, I think it's something that we should be wanting to do it eventually.
Like my parents and my grandparents used to speak a lot of like Bengali, like festivals or whatever, but the only one I've ever celebrated is Durga Puja. I've never done anything apart from that, and my parents have stopped doing that as well. Like we aren't in touch with all of that, and there are lots of practices that I've heard of, and I can't even think of the name because I've heard of them so like sparsely. But I've heard of it, and I've never witnessed anything of the sort. And as a Bengali, I've been to Calcutta or anywhere near Bengal like once in my life when I was a toddler. So like we're getting really out of touch with our culture, and like so we hear like a lot, like majority of us sat down when we heard this from. We hear these things that aren't practiced anymore, basically, and the stuff we do practice is so like mainstream now. Like stuff we do know, the stuff we do now is all like very generalized to just Indian culture, and like our own identity is also getting like very spread out, basically.
Something I want to add about seeing, back to the prompt actually, the stigmatization about periods. Like my mother used to talk to me, or my grandmom used to tell me a lot of things, like how they would sleep on separate beds, they were not allowed to eat certain foods, not touch certain foods. And all these stigmatizations, I understand why it was there then. Like, for example, you're not allowed to like enter the kitchen, enter the temple. All of these were understood because they were relevant then, because there were not inventions of sanitary pads. There was no education of personal hygiene. That time they did not have such equipments or knowledge about such things, which is why they were not supposed to go to the kitchen. It was because periods is generally supposed to be a painful process for a woman, where a lot of germs and toxins come out of the body. So it was to prevent the woman to like, get tired actually, because their primary job was in the kitchen at the temple. So to avoid such things, like to avoid that pain, the strain of working, they would say that, okay, don't enter the kitchen, don't do this. It was not because of some sort of like they are impure or something like that. And now such things don't really matter, or they are not relevant enough. And I feel like that's what's so beautiful about culture, that it's adaptability to time and the change in time over time. And I feel like that's how it should like be. If we really know and understand what the reason behind it, we will understand that it's not really about like women being impure or something. It's very factual actually. This has happened with my mother, for example. Like when she was on her periods during her time when she was living, she is from Patna, Bihar. So they used to make papads at home, papad and achar at home. So when you're on your period, you're not supposed to touch the papad that is in making because it's supposed to like turn red or something like that. I've heard this, but this has happened with my mother, and she actually, when the papads were like getting like soaked and dried in the sun, when she went there, like they did turn pale because it's because of your body's toxins that they do come out, and it is very scientific. These are toxins that your body releases, and that's why some certain things, if we're not supposed to do during those days, it makes so much sense. But the stigmatization behind it that, oh, you're an impure woman just because you have your periods going on, that's something that's wrong.
जो सिचुएशंस चली आ रही हैं और जो टाइम चला आ रहा है उसके हिसाब से समय बदल देता है सब कुछ. पहले ज़माने में जो था वो आज नहीं है. आज जो है वो नेक्स्ट उसमें नहीं रहेगा क्योंकि टाइम चेंजेस बट रूट शुड नॉट स्पॉइल. ओके, जरूरी नहीं है कि मैं अपनी किसी परंपरा को निभाऊं ही. नॉट नेसेसरी. माई कन्वीनियंस, माई वर्क, माई लाइफस्टाइल मे बी चेंज्ड, बट आई शुड नॉट बी अननोन अबाउट दैट. दैट इज व्हाट इट. आई नो माई कल्चर. दैट इज द मेन थिंग. इट इज अगेन लाइक मैंने पहले ही मेरे स्टार्ट कमेंट में कहा कि मैं वेस्टर्न ड्रेस में, इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि मैं अपने कल्चर को ये नहीं करती. हाँ, अगर ओकेजन वाइज मुझे कहीं और जाना होता तो मैं इंडियन आउटफिट में जाती, या मेरे कपड़े मुझे डिफाइन नहीं करते हैं, मेरी थिंकिंग मुझे डिफाइन करती है.
I don't see my extended family much, not even in the festivals and the rituals because many of them don't show up. So because they are so busy with their individual lives and everything of that sort, we do not have a lot of interactions. And I would say this has a negative consequence as well because you don't know people as much. You're not exposed to multiple perspectives, and you do not understand different mindsets and thought processes because you're not interacting with them enough. Now, festivals and rituals and marriages per se have become an obligation where you just have to go, you have to show up, you have to interact for an hour or two, and then you just come back. And that is why people are not putting that sentiment. As Ms. Said that previously, it used to be an occasion of joy and it had a lot of sentiment attached to it. But now, because it has become an obligation, there isn't a lot of sentiment or not a lot of you don't put your 100% in it, and that is why many people don't show up and you don't have a lot of interactions. So I do not see my extended family much during festivals and rituals.
आज लोगों का स्केड्यूल जो है, लाइफस्टाइल, वो इतना चेंज हो गया है कि जैसे मैं अपनी बात करूँ तो मैं इंटरनेशनल करिकुलम में हूँ और मेरी जो फैमिली है वो मोस्टली नेशनल जो है करिकुलम में है. उनके बच्चे पढ़ते हैं या वो अगर जॉब में है तो वो उस हिसाब से. तो उनकी छुट्टियां जब पड़ती हैं तब उनके घर में सारे शादियां, विवाह, सब ब्याह होते हैं, जबकि हमारा उस समय एग्जाम टाइम होता है. तो मैं डेफिनेटली प्रायोरिटी मेरे काम को दूंगी, ना कि उस रिचुअल को या उस फेस्टिवल को, क्योंकि मैं उनको फोन करके यही कहूंगी कि जब मेरी छुट्टी होगी तो मैं आपको मिलने आ जाऊंगी, लेकिन क्योंकि ऐसा है तो मैं नहीं आ सकती. अब सेम थिंग वैसा हो जाता है कि लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि अगर वो नहीं आए तो हम क्यों जाए. तो ये भी एक सोच बनती जा रही है. तो थिंकिंग प्रोसेस या वे ऑफ थिंकिंग बहुत बदल गया है. लाइफस्टाइल बहुत ज्यादा बदल गई है, परिस्थितियां बहुत ज्यादा बदल गई हैं. इवन रिलेशनशिप में भी आजकल बहुत ज्यादा प्रैक्टिकलिटी आने लग गई है. और उस प्रैक्टिकली में जहाँ पहले हम एक जॉइंट फैमिली में रहते थे, आज वो न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज होती जा रही हैं. अब तो न्यूक्लियर फैमिली भी आप नहीं कह सकते कि अगर एकल परिवार, इसमें भी बच्चे अलग हैं, मम्मी पापा अलग हैं, तो उसके हिसाब से बहुत लोगों ने अपनी लाइफ को प्रैक्टिकली जीना शुरू कर दिया है. इसीलिए ये होता है कि कभी रेयरली आप अपनी एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली को समझ पाओ या देख पाओ तो वो एक होता है, बाकी नहीं होता है.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course, you guys can just come now and give your opinion.
आपने जो बोला एकदम सही बोला, on point. But I feel like with time, as priorities change, obviously everything changes. You don't see your family much. But for me, at least, especially the way I've been brought up, is that we've always given family priority. We've always given it's everything, like family over everything. And I understand a lot of people have work over family, and everybody has different priorities, and which is very fair and justified. But for me personally, we've always come together, whether it's a small occasion such as someone's birthday or to a big occasion such as Diwali. Uh, I've always been around family. I've always been surrounded by people who I call family. So I feel like that, and that has somehow also shaped the kind of person I am. Because for me, it's not very hard to like probably mingle with a lot of people or talk to a lot of people because I've always been around so many people, and that's why I feel like somewhere family for me is a very integral part of who I am and what I am today.
Right, and in my case, I agree with Kanupriya. A lot of similarities because even in our family, like at least our closer relatives, other than our extended family, we definitely believe that family comes first. There's always obviously information about everything that's going on, and everybody really truly cares. It's not just that they feel obligated that their family, I have to go. Their family, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's just that everybody truly cares that they understand that yes, I want to do this, right? And I think that's one thing that's really been a huge factor in terms of even extended family, because the same sort of laws that apply for our closer family also extend to extended family, because there's always some or the other thing going on, and with all the travel that we generally do when we had a little more free time on our hands, because of the way everything was functioning, we were able to interact with them a lot more, even though there weren't as many events, which is why I think we've just sort of become a much more tightly knit family overall.
Yeah. Sorry, you want to say something?
Contrasting to both Kanupriya and Vedant's experiences, I have been close to my immediate family since I was young. With my extended family, apart from like maybe my first cousins or my grandparents, I barely interacted with them. I don't know a lot of my extended family. Like, I've heard their names, but I've never met them. And even my grandparents or my first cousins, I don't interact with them a lot either. At festivals or like whatever, like festivals or weddings, or we don't really have a lot of those going on. And even if we do, like as a family, we just choose not to go to them. We celebrate almost nothing. And like I find it about most like extended family members from like medical emergencies. Like if someone's sick, I'll like learn their name. Otherwise, like I've never interacted with anyone or known of them apart from my immediate family. So there's definitely been a distance, which a lot of different people also have. But it's like very like to like drastic ends of the spectrum, like compared to them and me, like we're completely like different.
I think we all, with our busy, hustling lives, that was kind of like a stop or a slowdown to really think upon like what matters, who matters. And I feel like during COVID, I really like understood and probably connected to my family much more than I would have if my normal pre-COVID life was going on. Because that time obviously I did prioritize myself, my career, my school, my studies, but during COVID it just made me realize that how important it is to be grateful and to have that family present for you in those hard times. Because I heard many stories, I've seen many people, they were stuck in their apartments alone, somewhere very far away from their families or friends. And I feel like that made me really like grateful and about me being able to be at my house with my family and spend time with them, understand them. Because I don't think before that I really ever got a chance to like probably understand or connect with them at a deeper level. And I feel like since then, now it's much easier for me to even communicate with them, even understand what they're trying to say. Because sometimes, obviously, we all have like contrasting opinions on things.
Yeah.
And with that, you just understand the type of people they are, the type of person you are, and what really shapes you. And I feel like that really helped me connect with my family, the whole COVID-19, like the situation, the lockdown and everything. And I feel like it made me really realize like my family is my number one priority, and then everyone else.
Like she said, like even in your previous statement, when you said interaction with your family shaped who you are, Like it taught you to be more social and you can like interact with a lot of people. I find it like I'm also quite social and I can talk to people easily, but that's because I had to look for different alternatives rather than a family always having that. So definitely not like we had like the similar outcome, but the circumstances were different.
Do it in small clips, so please. I will continue to practice the rituals that I do once I live independently.
So I think I will continue to do the festivals and the rituals I practice because I have imbibed them in me and they have become a part of my personality and my knowing. So when August is around, I would know that Ganesh Chaturthi is a festival which I need to celebrate. But what is more important is that although I do have that festival in mind, I do need to have similar people who follow that festival or practice that festival as well, because festival is not, or a ritual is not made without the people who follow it. So for me, if I am not in an environment where there are a lot of people who practice that ritual, I would of course try to follow that ritual, and I most probably would, but it would become difficult for me to kind of gather all my energy and put celebrate it with the same sentiment and emotion which I used to back at home. And because if I might go out of where I am currently, I might not find the perfect mix of people who do follow that festival. And that's what globalization is about at the end of the day, that you go to a different place, you look at rituals over there, you create a new mixture of festivals and a new way of living, and that is what you follow. So I wouldn't completely follow all the festivals because that wouldn't be very practical, but I would have an earning to follow most of the festivals that I celebrate back at home.
Okay. For me, I partially do live independently because I study like far away from home. So I feel like this is a very relevant question for me, because I'm experiencing it right now, where I do have to celebrate most of the major or important festivals back in the city where I study in. So I feel like it's not been very hard for me because like we've always discussed, like Ms. Tripti said before, also culture is my lifestyle, it's the way I live, it's something that is very natural to me, comes very naturally to me. So I feel like it's something that I would want to pass on to my kids or someone younger to me as well. So I feel like it's a very important part of me, and which is also the reason why I had started the ABC project, which is Acknowledge, Believe and Connect. And I feel like this is just a small way a small way to like give it back to the community of what I've learned and what has really shaped me could probably help someone else. And like my project, because the reason why I named it ABC was because culture is actually the building blocks of your being, and so is basically the letters of the alphabets of the English letter, which is how you start learning, you start writing, speaking, whatever. So I feel like it's not hard for me, it's not a decision that I would want, like, that I have to make whether I live independently or not. I feel like it's always going to be a part of me. Whether I really go and celebrate it in a big manner or not, I will celebrate it inside me. I will feel that joy inside me. Like, obviously, when I am in the city where I'm studying, I do not celebrate Diwali as, humongously as we do here. But the way I celebrate it inside, I celebrate it within me, and I feel like that's what's most important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. Like, as I've said, like Madhur, that if I don't celebrate much, but like something like Diwali, if I were to live independently, I would do like some sort of small thing, like maybe like dress up or like cook something, just like pay homage to my culture, because it's just something I've enjoyed for so many years and I've lived in India for, like I've lived here my entire life. And like celebrating these things, I've always enjoyed, like with my friends or with my immediate family. It's just something I would like to do, and I would want to keep that going because if that's something I enjoy, I want to keep doing it.
For me, at least, for me, I need a very strong rationale and I need a very strong scientific reasoning behind everything. And I, at least at this stage, believe that unless that's present and that's very prominent, that doesn't really resonate with me. And which is why I think a lot of the practices that we're doing right now which have lost relevance scientifically speaking at least, those I probably would not continue later when I live independently. Of course, there are a lot of practices that I would continue, right? Like obviously, I still want to be celebrating Diwali, I still want to be celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi, right? But I just don't know if those smaller practices and all and parts and aspects of that culture that have been imbibed in me, I want to carry forward and especially pass on to other people as well. Which is why I just think overall I'm sort of leaning towards the side of not practicing the same practices as I live independently later in the future.
I
But
think
see, culture and the belief is how I can define it. A person whose father is very sick, life and death situation. The person is going to each and everyone for help. That somebody can help him to save his father's life. He is not getting any help from anywhere. और वो चोरी कर लेता है. वो चोरी करता है क्योंकि उसको उसके पापा की जान बचानी. Now the perception is, culture will say it is ethical. It is not wrong. But the justice will say it is wrong. So, why it is not wrong according to the culture? Because the wrong thing is done with the right intention. So, when the things are, even in Bhagavad Gita it is said that अगर एक झूठ 100 लोगों को का भला कर सकता है तो वो झूठ भी सच के बराबर है. लेकिन एक सच अगर हजारों का नुकसान करता है तो वो एक हजारों झूठ से भी ज्यादा खतरनाक है. So the culture is giving you that freedom. So in that way, how you see the things, your perception always matters. Sometimes the negative situation also we can turn it in the positive way. Sometimes positive things also we can turn into the negative things. But culture is always say that whatever the situations are are there, you have to always see the positive side of it.
yeah, like my mom always says like our culture always tells us or gives us the understanding of what is right and wrong.
Wrong.
Or Vivek.
Yeah, right and wrong. Right and wrong is the justice.
Yeah.
But what is valid and what is uchit and anuchit? There are two words which is say right and wrong, and another things valid and invalid. Sometimes the valid things can be wrong, but sometimes invalid things also can be a right. But the justice will always see right and wrong. Culture will see what is valid or invalid.